Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Memento Futurum podcast. This is your host, Vanessa Lamort, and I'm really excited to be chatting with Arizona Smith today. A little bit about Arizona. She is an artist and mystic, creator of the Purple Diamond Tarot deck. She works with the tarot as a divinatory form of pictorial poetry to empower and clarify, working in the archetypal and imaginal realms as a lens for healing. P.S. I need to get this deck. Welcome, Arizona. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It's okay, so like I just yanked that. Oops, sorry if you guys heard that. Um um I have a massive art crush on you.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh, that's like I get the fairy giggly butterfly situation when I'm like, oh, I love your work. So I just had to like name that and claim that
Thank
because, you
you.
know. Um, so one of the things that I just wanted to open with, like I was so inspired by your workshop. I think it was a workshop, with Xenia and maybe a couple months ago at this point, and Myths of Creation, which I'll be talking with her on the podcast soon enough here. And it's just so like, I don't know, just the way that that was architected. And I had in that workshop, you gave me a free reading, like it was like a giveaway moment, and I knew that I needed to be there to connect with you. Like I knew that I was going to be one of the people chosen,
Mhm.
and it was such like a whoa moment. Like okay, I got to be there, and I need to connect with this person, and like when spirit brings that to me, I'm like, okay, I'm really listening. Like what's here, and then y'all, Arizona gave me like the most amazing reading in like 2 minutes. And it blew me away because you didn't know anything about me and you like told me my life. Um, and then that's what prompted me to have a session with you. So this moment in time, I think, is coming out of that soup, coming out of that imaginal realm. You know, I do dream work as well, and just like the divine listening, but also I just wanted to like put it at the beginning of this conversation that you have such a gift and I'm in love with your work, and I have received so much just from the tiny snapshot of interaction that I've had with you both in that moment on the workshop and then in a session. And so that's really where the inspiration for this podcast today is coming from, because your gifts really touched my life. So I just wanted to really like say that. Um, yeah,
Oh,
just
thank you.
super well.
So nice to hear.
Yeah. So I'm curious, well, about your journey with the tarot and your journey with dreams, and like how did you begin? Like how did you get into this essentially?
Um, well, probably similar to a lot of people who are in this work, I was dreaming from the get-go. Like some of my earliest memories are quite intense dreams that retrospectively I would probably term medicine dreams or power dreams or something like that. Um, the the purple diamond, which is what my the name of my deck is, and it's an energy that my deck is named after, was also coming to me as a child. I have a quite an early memory, maybe being about 4 years old and being in like the top of a bunk bed in my room, and I woke up and I was like fully awake. I could hear my cousin and my auntie downstairs, but the whole space in between me and the ceiling on top of this bunk bed was filled with the purple diamond like floating in space. And it gave me such a strange feeling of being like so seen, like more seen than ever, like almost exposing. It was to be seen so much by this kind of eye that was the purple diamond. And yeah, and then I was seeing like what I would now call auras, but shapes and things like that around people. And similarly, kind of classically, you know difficult things happen in my life in kind of late childhood, early teens, and I kind of packed all the spiritual stuff down with it. I kind of shut down my senses a little bit to get on with things. And although I still had powerful dreams, it wasn't until my early 20s that everything really came back online with a sort of healing force.
And how old were you with the purple diamond? Like when you first were introduced to the purple diamond?
Well, so I had this experience with the diamond when I was 4 years old, like in the bunk bed. And I've
Wow.
always remembered that. I knew it. But then when I started working on the deck and I was really calling up this energy, it started appearing again to me. And I was like, what is this? You know, it had just been kind of like an unnamed thing I'd never spoken to anyone about before that. Then my mom was like, oh, the purple diamond. Yeah, I used to draw that all the time. And she found a drawing that from like the house we'd been in. She knew that I was like around 1 or 2 years old. And it's literally like it's the purple diamond. Um, so my first memory is 4 years old, but I'm pretty sure from going back in kind of in meditation and also kind of having these drawings and this one particular drawing from my mom that I've been visited by this energy since the beginning.
That's wow.
Um, yeah, it's really it's really beautiful.
I'm just like blown away by that because I'm the mother of a toddler and
Oh,
who's 2.5. And when I got pregnant, I was thinking like, how am I gonna support this being coming in? And just like hearing your story and stories like this, and me as a child, and I had my own situations, like magical situation, and yeah, like it makes me think of Ollie, my son, and like, wow, how can I support this being and their divine art, you know? Because like
yeah.
this began so early in your timeline and like on Earth at least, you know?
Mhm.
Just like, wow. And that you remembered it and you had the connection and it was like there, even though you may have come back to it later in life. Like I think this is you're speaking to something that I think a lot of people experience in their
Mm.
own unique way. um and just how rich and prime those early years are. And yeah, so I'm curious about like your connection to inner child. And so when you came back around to the purple diamond,
Mm.
like I guess, or maybe this was more continuous for you, but I guess the way that I heard it was that you're coming back around to it. I guess what's the timeline there?
So I definitely had come back around to like spiritual things before this, but it was only really in maybe the last 6 years that I came back around to the purple diamond. I'd never been able to like find anything about what it was. I kind of just thought maybe it was like, I don't know, like an aura color or like I don't know. I'd never
Hmm.
been able to place it. And then it started just appearing to me again. Like in my waking life, I would see this diamond hovering around. And I was like, what is happening, at first?
Hmm.
Um, because normally I might see things, but it's usually with my eyes closed, unless it's kind of like, unless there's an urgency to it. And the purple diamond was coming up without urgency. It was just like hanging around with me. And so I started to, really try and play with it. I was like trying to speak to it and it didn't speak back. And I was trying to like visualize flying through it. And I just like pop out the other side. And I was trying to research it. And at first I wasn't getting anywhere. And then other things in my life changed. I moved house. I moved out of a house that was like, quite crappy, moved into a house that like was really nice, the nicest like home I'd ever had. And the purple diamond suddenly started to emit like a kind of ringing sound like bells.
Whoa.
That actually, like, when I was looking into the bells and the purple diamond, it actually turned up some research around like angels, angelic beings. And as soon as I found that research, everything just like went super fast. And I started spontaneously connecting to past lives where I'd been with the purple diamond, and I'd worked with it as a tool, and things really went from there.
Okay, I'm so intrigued. Can you tell us about those past lives or what those timelines were like?
Yeah. I mean, full disclosure, like I'm still not 100% sure like what I would term the purple diamond, because it's like it's like a being, but it's not like a being. It's not like a guide that like, might take on like a form, like a human form or anything like that. It's just like an energy sort of power source.
Hmm.
Um, it's like the resonance of light. It's like a violet ray, but also the shape is really important as well. And it's like clear sight, like perfection is but all in energies. Like it's really abstract to try and describe fully in language. But
Totally.
the past lives were me in different scenarios, usually as a healer of some kind. Um, Usually a kind of shamanic or like nature-based situation. And the purple diamond was, sometimes it was painted on my drum, sometimes it was a weaving on the wall, sometimes it was nearly always an art, like depicted as in art. And sometimes I would see it like hanging around in the air, like I have been in this life. And I think it showed me these lives because it was showing me that this is a tool to be used for healing. And it's also, although in the past lives I had a resonance that it was me or a version of me, I don't think I'm the only person connecting to the purple diamond. I think the purple diamond is any major archetype is connecting to a lot of people, and maybe it's taking different forms or maybe it isn't. But um yeah, it's kind of like this power source.
Wow, I'm like my heart is so blown open hearing that. And like I'm like emotional because I feel like at least the way that I heard it, like you're describing like the tapestry or an art on the wall or on your drum and how I don't know, maybe I'm this is my lens, on your story, but like maybe you could use the word spirit guide to describe or like you said angel, but like the thing that's coming through for me around hearing your story is like this other sacred muse energy. But
Mm.
sometimes that word muse has its own like connotation.
Mm-hmm.
But like in another way that like I don't fully resonate with, but like for me the way that I see like muse, especially in this uh energy is like a guiding light for the expression.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really beautiful and it reminds me too that our art in whatever form it takes like has its own consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
really
like
resonate with that.
yeah, like that as a concept. And um I remember at one point when I was making one of the music albums that I put out, sound healing albums, like I just became very aware. I'm like, this is its own thing. Like this is its own consciousness and it's coming through me like a baby. Like I don't own my son. Like I don't own my art. Like it's just it comes through. And it's kind of wild to kind of put the self aside to like let that happen. I don't know. This is what Purple Diamond's bringing up for me. Um,
Mhm.
just like super wow. And it's connecting something for me because I don't have a purple diamond, but something that I connect to a lot here so I'm in the Southwest. I'm in Vegas, Las Vegas, Nevada, and you're in London.
Yeah.
Okay, just had to remember to put that there. Geography, and the sunsets and the sunrises here are amazing, but especially for me during the winter. I'm a winter baby, Aquarius. Arizona is also an Aquarius. We discovered this, and I'm very happy about this situation because I don't find other Aquarians very often. Um, but there's a color frequency that comes through the sunset, which is like this peachy pink that when I see it come through the sunset, it always like meets my eyes, like the actual light of the sunset at the horizon meets my eyes, but then it has like this waveform glittery thing. And if my friend Victoria was here listening, I'm gonna have to send her this episode. Hey Victoria, just a nod to you later. But I would tell her all the time, like a few years ago, I think that there's something connected to the rays of light in the sun, like sun rays, the sunset, sunrise, that
Mm.
connects to angels, like the angelic rays. So there's
Yeah.
some, like, I'm connecting that because you mentioned that.
Mhm.
And I'm like, whoa, there's something here.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Like when you're describing it, I feel like I can almost see that glint in your eye. I definitely um think that there's something in that. And I mean the purple diamond, it's is interesting how there is a quality that it's like nothing to do with me. And I think that's really beautiful. And that also kind of makes it for me personally like even more possible to do this work because I don't have to show up like, oh, I am all these things. It's like I'm just the mouthpiece, which I know can sound a bit like silly in a way or like made up or whatever, but it's it's really helpful, like confidence wise. Um, and then the angelic piece and the light, um, yeah, I mean, as ever, there's so much we don't know, isn't there? And, you know, I have spirit guides, I have animal guides, and the purple diamond is like, it's something else. And it's in my work, it's lent itself so well to art because it is so much about color and shape. And that is what light is, right? Like light is refractions of shapes, of colors. And um so it's almost like when the light hits you, it's painting with your cosmology.
Whoa. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's so deep. And yeah, I think it's, even though sometimes it can be hard to bring language to these abstract experiences, um, I think it's fun. That's why I'm doing this process of poet casting. Um, just to hear like your voice and the way that you're describing it, and like in my own, I'm like witnessing myself. Like, yeah, it's really, really, really special to hear people and talk about their art, hear artists talk about their art. Um, so you said about 6 years ago is when Purple Diamond
Mm,
like came through with like maybe more of a strength. Is that
yeah,
accurate?
yeah.
And then how did the tarot deck come together? Like, what was that like?
Um, so I had probably also around 6 years ago had a really beautiful tarot reading. And I was like, oh my God, like this is just putting so many things together for me. I'd never had a proper tarot reading before. I was like, it's a visual divinatory tool, and it brought through so much healing for me, you know, that reading. So I decided to like very slowly learn the tarot. And I did that by just drawing a card a week. Sometimes I'd post them on Instagram, but you know, in a way, I didn't really think about it that much. I was just kind of slowly doing this practice. Um, and with doing that, you know, my dreams were strengthening and everything else was strengthening. Auras were kind of coming back, and um, yeah, I was connecting also to kind of the lineage of witches that I have. And then just when COVID hit, so what was that, like 3-ish years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I got this like most magical, miraculous commission to hand paint the major arcana, 22 cards. That was such a big commission for me on multiple levels. It was so like something I was interested in, but it was like monetarily also, it was just amazing and really gave me the space to like go into this project. Um, and so I started to paint the major arcana, but I wanted to um, really research the archetypes in a way that felt like I wasn't just going to be kind of reproducing something or like in some way making a kind of like gimmick of something really powerful. I really wanted it to be like straight from the source, but like in whatever lens I have to those particular archetypes. So I spent at least a week, sometimes more, on each one, meditating with what like the feeling, the taste, the embodiment, the wisdom, the wounding of each archetype was. And then I would just start making really intuitive sketches. Um, and then yeah, I started to paint them, and it was like, I mean, I should have foreseen it, but it was such an initiation. Like every archetype I worked with one by one was bringing me all of these lessons were showing up in my life. And because I was really trying to connect to them, I was finding them in myself. So I had to look at my relationship with, you know, the fool, with beginner's mind, with risk taking, with the wisdom of being open hearted, but also the woundedness of being recklessness. And do that for each one of the archetypes. And some of them I was like really familiar with those parts of myself, and it was easier, and some of them was really difficult. It was a real roller coaster. Like it was very intensive. But then because I'd done that much, I thought, hey, why don't I just continue and make the whole deck? So I did that, and I did a Kickstarter to fund it, and yeah, it's all kind of happened from that. I was channeling a lot, like I was bringing a lot through from the purple diamond, hence the name. I did look at some kind of quite old, like the more kind of older esoteric versions of the tarot when I was building the guidebook, but I was trying to really ground the meanings of the cards in what I had witnessed when I'd met them, which was like um, really compassionate teaching, rather than like, oh, the devil card, like that's it, or like
Mm-hmm.
anything kind of like that would freak out the nervous system. So yeah, it brought me real close to the purple diamond doing that deck as well. It was very humbling in so many ways.
That's is so incredible. I mean, and you, like the process that you described around like, you really going through each card, um, is so, so amazing, especially in a time where people kind of just, I think sometimes in this work, just like crank it out, and get it out there, yeah, and sell it and whatever. And I feel like it's a true testament to your craft and your wisdom. Um, I'm curious to ask, like, what do you think are the cards that describe you? Like, I guess, like, who do you identify with as a card or archetype?
At the time of making the deck, I really identified with the magician and strength and the star. And
Okay.
so those drawings, like if you ever get my deck or see it, you look at those drawings and the star especially, but those drawings are actually from healing dreams that I personally had, because they were the ones that I was like, oh yeah, I've not only found this archetype in myself, but like I've connected it now to a process I've gone through around integration.
Hmm.
Um, I feel in some ways a little bit more distance from those cards. I mean, I love them and I connect to them, but I feel at the moment I'm working a lot with the High Priestess, and then maybe the last year I was really kind of getting close with the Empress. And the question from the Empress that she always asks me is like, what would love do? Like, what would love do in the way that you're drinking your coffee, and what would love do in the way you're responding to this email, and like in every kind of curve of your spine and point of your finger, like what would love do and how would that realign you?
Wow. That is so profound, girl. Like, wow. Just my heart and mind are blown open. Um, yeah, I mean, I could imagine the Empress saying that, but like you have it sounds like you have a very visceral, um, intact, and like there's so much like process and continuity with it. And um, do you dream in tarot, do you think? I mean, obviously dreams bring in archetypes, so there's that connection, but
I
I'm
love that.
curious about the dreaming piece.
Yeah. Um, well, I was actually really interested because I hadn't really dreamed in tarot, at least not specifically, right? Until I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, and I had a spate of really powerful dreams in which I went back to a version of my childhood slash, unconscious, and found, like, in quotes, like this isn't real, but like found a tarot deck that I had made before I was born and then when I was a child. And it was like so
Oh,
interesting what the pictures were, because they weren't like normal tarot archetypes. It was like, let's say, an oracle deck, And so I've made those for myself, and that process has been really profound for me. And I have started doing like bespoke sets for people, going in intentionally into the dream time and creating like a small, maybe 4 to 11 card oracle deck specifically for people. And it's just really blown my heart open doing that. It's
no
been,
way. You make like little mini decks for people through your dreams?
yeah.
Uh, wow. That is so amazing. I mean, wow. I mean, that's like a girl after my own heart. I'm so dreaming is like such a big part of my life. And like just you dream it and then grounding it, in this plane, like that process is very exciting to me. And I usually describe this as like, oh, I have a lot of placements in the 12th house, or the astrology people who know this, and then like bringing it like to the first house, like 12th to first situation is really big for me.
Mm-hmm.
And like Capricorn 12th, and the first house is Aquarius. And so I'm like, wow, yeah, I need to look into that with you, because it's so cool, like so cool. And I don't know, as you're talking and like describing things, it reminded me of a dream I had one time where the Queen of Cups came in, like it was pulled for a friend, and it was, I mean, like truly like a more of a prophetic dream, because it was like a real time thing. And yeah, I think that the tarot tends to, weave in and out of dreams because they can speak a similar language, like in symbol. Um, so, but I don't know, I was just curious if like you dreamt in tarot because you're really like close with it. I feel like I'm close with tarot, but probably more oracle than tarot. I feel like I'm a student, like I'm a student of tarot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I resonate with the star as an Aquarius, but as a mother, I would say the Empress does come in for me. Like if like I feel that, in my own being.
Yeah.
Um, but I've been pulling the Hanged Man. Not
Oh
a
yeah.
lot, but more, yeah, more so now in the last like 3-ish months than before. And I don't know, I feel like that's one that I don't see that often. Like I don't pull it that often for other people, and I don't pull it that often for myself. Um, I'm curious to get your take on the Hanged Man if you're willing to offer it.
Yeah, I love this card, and I work with it a lot as well. And you might already know this, but there's a really interesting basis to this card traditionally, which is that it's based on the myth of Odin, who is a Norse god. And I can't remember whether it's 40 days, what the number of days is, but the legend goes that he hung upside down from a tree for let's say 40 days,
Mhm.
in order to release out everything that was stagnant or kind of taking up space in him, so that he could then receive in the wisdom that ended up being the runes, which is the Norse alphabet based on nature, based on trees. So all these symbols. And so when I work with this card, I'm really thinking about like, what compassionate space can I give to myself, knowing that even if I feel like I'm not doing enough or not moving enough, or like that I need to stop and think about things, I'm 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 making space for wisdom, and it might be like a whole new language of being, it might be that big. um I find that connecting to water is really great when this card comes up, to just like model that, to model like allowing things to be detoxed and flushed out. And I know also, this card often has connotations with like a bit of a kind of mental storm, and I really appreciate the humor in being like,
Mhm.
mental health issue, okay, let's go upside down. Like,
Mhm.
like shake it out, like let's get the head to the ground then.
So intelligent, like that, yeah, that connection there. And yeah, that does describe my life. Like, uh-huh. I, it's like I said, it's one that I haven't really gotten to know, and I'm getting to know it right now. And I am clearing a lot of space to make way for something really big.
Mm.
And like that was what you said in my reading both times. And uh, yeah, it's I'm
Mm.
being reminded of process over product, something my professor would say all the time. Um, but wow, like holy wow. Talking with other people about dreams is always so interesting to me because, it's a very personal to transpersonal world. Like the way that you dream is just so unique to you and your life experience, and like that it's so rich, and I get really excited about dreams because of that.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, like what was I gonna say? I had a question about that, about dreams, because like going back to dreaming with the tarot, um, it's escaping me at the moment, but if it comes back around, I'll bring it in. But um, yeah, I guess the another question I have is, what would you say? I mean, maybe in tarot or maybe just from your own, um, insight, but like for this season. So, maybe for perhaps Sag or maybe for Capricorn, like as we're in the last part of the year, like what are you seeing maybe as themes with people or like a like collective messaging? Like what do you think is coming through?
Mhm. Um, I am feeling like December is a bit of a kind of like loving cocoon time, and that um as we're all aware of, like there's been so much going on in the world, so much just like raw heartache, and fear, like, and scariness, um and for the people that can, I think that being able to receive the cocoon of love, and feel really worthy of receiving it, even when other people aren't,
Mm,
and um, being able to hold that you are worthy of love and comfort and goodness and success and abundance, and more simply being like grateful for your life, and so is everyone else. And someone else having less than you or being not okay is, it just means that everyone should have more. It doesn't mean that you should kind of energetically turn away from being able to connect to the gratitude of what you are and what you have. um there's a feeling of like, we need to forgive ourselves so that we can really stop being so contracted in the body and move more flexibly again. And then we can start, you know, breathing into the diaphragm of our beings and really help the world, really help um, be lights, which is
Mhm.
quite a big message. I also just think everyone needs a bit of a break, and I think energetically that is coming a bit this month. It's been the year of the Chariot. Every year has a tarot card attached to it, which is works out numerologically by adding together the date, like 2 + 0 + 2 + 3.
Mhm.
Uh, with the 7, which is the Chariot card. And the Chariot's like, you know, there's not much rest with the Chariot. But yeah, there's also something really interesting that's going to go on next year to that point, which is that um, so every year, because the number just goes up one at a time, you know, so does the tarot card. So next year, 2024 will add up to 8, right?
Mhm.
The year before it was 6. So we'll just go along the major arcana. But next year is where the major arcana splits. So some people, modern decks will go to the strength card, and traditional, like really traditional decks, ancient traditional decks, mine included, will go to the justice card. So it's really interesting that there's going to be like a different
Whoa.
year for a different archetype for different people, and it's only this year, it's only this card that it happens. Then we go back into alignment, all the cards become the same.
Interesting. So, are you saying, because I've noticed this, like 8 isn't always the strength card, but I think that's usually what I see, at least in the decks that I've worked with. Minus, I have a Yodoworski deck.
Oh.
I think that one has justice as 8. I can't remember.
Yeah,
But
that
the
one.
titles are also in French, and I don't speak French, and it takes me a minute to
Mhm.
understand. Um, but do they flip? So is it like, I guess I'm just trying to figure out where else does the strength or justice card go?
Yeah, they flip. So strength and justice swap places. So justice is like you know, quite far into the deck. Is in line 2, so is in the middle of the major arcana for
Gotcha.
most modern decks. And also I love Jodorowsky. Like I'm such a fan of him.
Really? Okay, what would you say about Yodorovsky?
Um
Why do you like that work?
I just like feel like him and his work is kin. Like I actually follow him on Instagram. I don't know if you do.
No, I need to, guess, maybe.
So like I just watch him and just be like, we'd be friends. Like he's really living in the surreal in a way that's not flippant, and it's
Mm,
really masterful, I think. But it is so it has so much levity attached to it at the same time. Like he's really managed to capture like childhood curiosity and innocence with also kind of like hierophant style, or like, you know,
yeah.
magician style wisdom, which I really appreciate in this time, in this world.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. I feel that with the deck, like inner child plus hierophant, I guess is my integration with that.
Mm.
Um, that's really interesting. Yeah, I think whenever I look at the cards, like just as like just the images, they're so abstract to me that like I tend to receive very like primordial maybe messages.
Mm. Me
Um,
too.
yeah. Different decks bring up different things for me in the way that I read, and I mean, like, I know the tarot. I feel like I have a pretty good grasp of the tarot. I could definitely still learn a lot more, but different, yeah, images will bring me to different places, and that's like, my affinity for different decks, and I've received and collected so many decks over the years, just because I love to see the diversity in all of it. Like it's just so cool, and but there's something to be said, like, because I see tarot as a system, and like I think it can be more like study oriented, maybe like more Capricornian or Saturnian.
Mm-hmm.
while also not. And
Mm-hmm.
at least I don't know, that's how I would describe. And so I don't know, there's that form and the structure, the skeleton of the tarot that I really appreciate. And um yeah, the way that you put things and the way that you've been describing things, I'm just like, wow, like your description of even Jodorowsky or like the dreams, the imaginal realm part of your language is very, very intriguing to me. And this goes back to my initial one of my initial questions, which was this is the thing I think I was forgetting, which is like when it comes to being an artist or having some form that you work with and like doing the being within the process of like unseen to seen,
Mm-hmm.
how do you bridge that? I guess like what do your practices look like, or what do you find yourself really like gravitating toward to allow that process to come through? Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah. Um, I I have practices that I like cycle in and out. Like there's nothing that I'm like, I've done this every day for my whole life, anything like that. But a practice that I work with a lot is I have sketchbooks and sketchbooks full of this is drawing my dreams when I wake up.
Mm,
And I try to just like first thing upon waking, before writing it, just do a drawing of it. And sometimes it's like very abstract. Sometimes it's not. Even if I can't remember my dreams, which I do most of the time, but if I can't, I still try and like let my hand, let my pen, let my body lead. And then that becomes a mirror that I can work with the dream. So, like what you were saying earlier about bringing the immaterial into material, that's definitely my bag, because I
mhm,
learn more about it by doing that.
right. Hmm.
I I don't yeah, I don't like analyzing it too much until I've got a depiction and that feels very like in my body. Um and so then sometimes paintings or works kind of come out of like sometimes the dream or the drawing of the dream like needs more work, like I need to keep depicting it, or like the dream I told you about where I had the tarot cards or the oracle cards, like I had to make physical ones because I knew that I wouldn't be fully experiencing the dream until I had a version of it in my hand.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's like I've been brought to tears of frustration before because I can't draw, I can't reproduce it the same.
Right.
And I sometimes that's like literal, but sometimes it's like just the feeling.
Hmm.
Um and equally like, most of my art is not about like technical proficiency. That's not where my real skill set is. It's like about feeling and emotion. And it's really interesting watching other people connect to that art because there's we can talk about it, which is really fun, but it's not based in narrative. It's based in it's not like body feeling, it's like imaginal feeling.
I love that. Can you tell us more about what you mean by that?
I've been trying to think about how I would write about this or say like this is still really a very raw idea, but I would definitely say I'm a mind person. I'm Aquarius, I'm double Capricorn, I'm thinking a lot. Like I'm an air person.
Hmm.
And yeah, I have this affinity to kind of like sensorially feeling things. I have synesthesia, which is when you it's kind of funny. Like I feel like I can almost grade colors by, I call it biteability. This is so random, but I call it biteability. Like I can feel what it would be like to not taste, but bite a color, and like what it would feel like. What would it feel like your teeth sinking into a peach or a cucumber or a banana, right?
Oh my God. Okay. So peach, like peach color, like peach pink. What's the biteability on that?
That's quite high biteability. Like that's that's a biteability that I would enjoy, and that would probably be um a deep orange or a deep blue.
In flavor or in like it would.
in color. Like, so if I was to see, I'm actually looking right now at a painting that's half done, which is a really a deep blue, kind of like a Moroccan blue, and that is high bitability. So when I look at that, it's almost like my teeth go a little bit on edge. I can feel it, like I am biting the color, and it's really pleasurable, this color to me, in the same with the same kind of slowness that you would go through a peach if you were biting it, if that makes
Oh,
sense.
yes, totally. I also have synesthesia,
Wow.
differently.
Mhm.
My earliest memory of that was when I was a kid and I was like describing classical music to my mom as color. Like,
Oh,
oh, this song is this and this part of the song is that, and like that kind of thing.
yes,
Um,
totally.
yeah, as a musician, we could talk about synesthesia for like a whole other 5 hours.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, continue. So you're talking about um, imaginal feeling. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
And the
yeah,
synesthesia is part of it. Sorry, that's what you.
synesthesia is part of it, and I think yeah, absolutely, we could talk about synesthesia for days. Statistically, it affects more women than men, which is really interesting to me. But anyway,
Wow.
so I've in trying to explain it to other people, I've kind of realized that it's feeling, but it's not like there are body people, aren't there? There are people who really are feeling with their bodies rather than their heads, and I am doing the feeling in my head as my first center. So I've started to call it imaginal feeling, where it's like um I'm experiencing the world through the kind of long gloved arm of the imaginal realm. And within that, my senses are kind of aligning, um, so that I'm tasting, smelling, um, being emotionally affected by the world, and especially by shape and color and texture. And that gets even more abstracted, where it's like, noise is kind of shape, and density, and that's how it affects you. And if you look at, wave patterns and all of that, it is. So that kind of gets micro and macro. Um,
Wow. Hmm.
yeah, that's kind of what I mean by that.
I totally resonate. I mean, I'm double Aquarius, Sun and Rising with Moon and Leo,
Oh,
and I'm thinking a lot. So like really resonate with what you said, and my dreams are so sometimes bring in these feelings that like it's very hard to place.
mm-hmm.
Longing and nostalgia, which I've recently really like been in the meditation around nostalgia as pain for going home. But then there's other things that like I can't really put words to fully, and they're usually these dreams often are associated with a specific dream man that I dream of, and it's just a lot of not being able to place things and like profundity and mystery, and it's so frustrating sometimes, and I can be so hard on myself about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I could like when you're talking about the depictions, like I totally can understand that in a different way. And it's interesting because I feel like in this conversation, I'm really feeling into and dropping into like the role of the visionary.
Mm.
And there's a few other things that I don't know that I might put with that, but like and pioneering, it's just like it feels ancient made new, like both and together,
Mm.
like the what you're describing to me feels so primordial and so ancient, and then it's coming through your lens and you're really like integrating it and making it uh different, perhaps. I don't even know what I'd see. It's like words. Wow, words are so hard right now, but but it's so cool to me, and I'm happy that you're doing this work and this play, and that we are talking about it right now, because I think first of all, these are the people that are listening, other people like us, and it really excites me because I do think this is the way of the future, like bringing more art like this out from these depths of this psyche, or perhaps other worlds, other dimensions. And like I don't know, to me it feels like the dream world is starting to really bring these things to to the people. So it's like there's many people that I know of that are dreaming things, um, and bringing them out and into the world, and it's creating a lot of beauty. So I don't know. I'm just saying that it really excites me.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, me too. It feels yeah, it feels like the ancient future that really resonated. And I also am noticing that um people are having more dreams. Like dreaming is coming back online
Yeah, yeah,
um with vibrancy. Yeah.
yeah. That's something I've also noticed, and I don't know that there's a lot of power there,
Mm.
and that excites me. Like power that I think would be used in a really good way, and really honor the harmonics of the people and the planet and the cosmos. Like just wow, just a wow situation. But anywho, I'm gonna start to wrap up here because wow, I could talk to you for days. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
do I have more questions now? I think I do. But yeah, where can we find you, and what do you have coming up?
Um, okay, so on Instagram, Purple Diamond Tarot is where I'm doing tarot stuff, and then Arizona the Cat is art. And then my tarot website is purplediamondtarot.com. I have monthly events where we do tarot and healing circles. I've just done a course on the first line of the major arcana, um, as described to me from the purple diamond. So it's the closest thing I could offer to my own integration, and it's like really it will yeah, it's been really beautiful. It's been a kind of initiatory journey for people, and that is now available as a recording, and then line two will start live in the spring. um
Awesome.
yeah, and yeah, you can find everything about me on my website.
I'm so excited, and I have had my eye on your talismans,
Oh yes. Yeah.
and which is such a cool thing. It's a copper, is that correct?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, they make up copper.
oh yeah, metal. I love metal and metal art. Like just whoa. Um, and then when you say, this is a quick question, when you say line one, line two, what does that mean about the tarot? Because I don't think I know the tarot that way.
In the major arcana, so in the 22 most kind of high energy archetypal cards, there are three lines of seven cards each. The Fool is genuinely like kind of kept out,
Okay.
uh, because the Fool is kind of seen as like the golden thread, the thread that weaves between each card and bridges them. And so once you integrate the Fool, you kind of have the tool to be able to move between. And then other schools of tarot talk about a bit like Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, that the major arcana is a journey that the Fool is going on. It's another way to approach it, but
Mhm.
the first line is kind of similar to the development of the ego or childhood. So sort of I am becoming this, or am I an artist, or am I this? The second line is like you've accomplished that, you've accomplished the ego, and it's about, wait, who am I? Because I wasn't that job I wrestled so hard to get, or I wasn't the family I worked hard to build. um and then the third line is kind of the transpersonal, the trans ego. So it's like, okay, I'm no one, I'm the star, I'm the moon, I'm the sun. The cards like that come in.
That makes sense. I've never received it that way, but like I'm having like a doink, duh moment. But wow, like it's so cool. Like that's such a really special, line of study. So, okay. No, I just wanted to ask that. Yeah, anything before we close?
No, it's been so good to speak to you. I want to speak to you even more about dreams and everything. It was really beautiful for me to meet you energy first, actually,
Mhm.
doing the readings. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing this platform with me and your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just I have a huge smile. I'm so, so grateful. And everybody go check Arizona out. And I'm so excited. I have to go look at those bespoke cards. I'm like, wow. Um, but yeah, huge gratitude to everybody listening and to you for being here, Arizona. And yeah, until next time.
Absolutely. Bye, everyone.
Bye.